It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Okay, you're on.
Hello there. Good day. It is a beautiful day outside. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, everything is in bloom. And thank you for joining me on Lighten Up with Isabel. Today we have a lovely guest, which is part of my good news, Ron Ebert, who is a man of many talents. And welcome, Ron.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, my pleasure to have you. And today, before we get started with Ron, I want to talk a little bit about blessings. I always try to bring good news each time we have a program. And so today I want you really to think about gratitude and joy with all that surrounds you. It was interesting. I was reading the New York Times the other day, and I saw that millions of people have been displaced from their homes and have become refugees. Millions. Now, I don't know about you, if you've ever been lost in your life. I was once lost for 15 minutes. Have you ever been lost? It's a terrible feeling.
It is.
You just feel like, oh my goodness, where am I? What's going on?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what these people must feel where they don't have a home to go to? They don't have any security. They don't know how they're going to feed their children.
Mm-hmm.
So when I thought about that, I thought how grateful the rest of us should really be.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not lost, that we have eyes to view the
place to
program,
go.
a place, a
Place
home.
to go, a place to be.
Absolutely. It's a great blessing. So let's pretend today is Thanksgiving Day. Okay?
Okay.
And I'd like for everybody in my audience to think about what they're really thankful for friends, for family, for good health, for not being in a war zone, for all of their blessings. If we thought of every day as Thanksgiving Day, I think it would make people much more happy.
Absolutely.
Now, I did take some good news off the various, from the various publications, and I found out that a rainbow and 49 birds appeared over Orlando's Victims Memorial the other day, which was quite impressive. I also read that Harvard University, which of course is a very prestigious institution, has told applicants today to focus more on kindness to others and helping others more than on overachieving, which is really pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I found that really fascinating. Carl Jung, the brilliant psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, made the statement once that life has a spiritual purpose beyond material goods, and that our journey here on earth is about transformation and finding one's higher self and finding the divine. I thought that was really a beautiful statement. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think these are all things that we need to think about. How do we live our lives, and what is our individual journey about?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd like to introduce Ron. Ron is a gentleman of many talents. He's a dental lab technician. He's a singer, songwriter, a studio engineer, and an inventor. And I've always said that necessity is basically the mother of invention.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to talk about how you invented, or what prompted you to invent the third hand.
Well, my beautiful wife gave birth to triplets in 1996, and when we brought them all home, we were a little overwhelmed. We never had a child before. We never changed a diaper or fed a baby before, and all of a sudden we were overwhelmed with 3 little babies, a little bit premature, and very tiny, and very,
took a lot of care.
Yeah, very delicate. They need to be treated a certain way. But anyway, what we found out is that we would have to feed them like every 2 hours for every of the whole day, and
Well,
it became
I remember I knew you during that time, and you used to tell me that you'd be coming home from work and you'd stop at a stop sign and fall asleep.
exactly.
You were so exhausted.
I was exhausted,
And I'm
'cause
sure
I was
your wife
trying to
was, too.
continue my regular life of working and
Right.
commuting, and also coming home to all
Help.
this all this stuff
And do your
and,
music
yeah,
and doing your
and
music.
I wanted to continue my life also, but I was always so tired. Anyway, one time I went down to the basement workshop, and I got an idea about a bottle holder to help us feed, because we would always have to feed them all at the same time, and because they would all be crying, and it was difficult. So I came upstairs and I brought this product with a clamp on it and a bracket to hold the bottle, and me and my wife attached it to the seat, and it worked. It was able to hold the bottle, and we were able to hold the other two babies and feed them. And then my wife was like, this thing is great. It's really saving me a lot of time, because I can feed one baby, and I can do it two at a time all by myself. She said, you should make another one. So I made another one. Then we had two. Then she was like, she's like, this thing's great. You gotta make another one. So it winded up I made another one, and we belonged to a triplet club at the time, and
That's when so many multiple births were taking
exactly.
place. I remember that.
Yeah, and all those people that were at the club had all the same issues with feeding the babies all day long and taking care of them. And anyway, so they said, yeah, you should patent that idea, and I was like, well, right now I'm so busy, and but like people kept saying it to me, so eventually I did actually patent it and put it out on the market, and I did very well with it. And here's a little, I don't know if you can see this, but here's a little picture of it. Maybe you can hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, it's called the extra hand.
Called the extra hand, believe it or not. And it is an extra hand. And
That's great.
we did find it to be very useful.
Well, I know that your music is really where your heart is.
Exactly.
So I've asked you if you'd be so kind as to play something for us.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that you've done 3 different albums. The first one I believe was called Emerald Dreams.
Emerald Dream. And
The second one was called Velvet.
Velvet.
And the third one is called This Is Surreal.
Yes, and these are all available out there. Emerald Dream happens to be out of print now. It's gotten too old, and as you can see, it's still on cassette, which nobody uses anymore.
Right. Well, you can transfer that one.
Yes.
You can do a CD.
Anyway, so that's
Now, if someone wanted to buy one, they could get it, on Amazon?
on iTunes.com or Amazon.com.
Okay.
They can listen to clips, or they can make purchases.
Now, when we were speaking the other day, I asked you about the music,
Yes.
and you said you consider this music power pop, and I didn't know what
Correct.
that meant.
Right.
So would you be good enough to explain to the audience what power pop means?
Yes. Well, power pop is it's a genre of music that contains some elements of rock, some elements of melody that are unique to it, and it has a little bit more. It's a little edgier than just pop music.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a little edge to it, so not metal, not hard rock, but it's a little edgier than just mainstream pop music.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because I had never heard that expression
Mhm.
before. If you remember when we were talking,
There
I
is
said,
there
"What
is
is
like
that?"
a cult following of power pop bands out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all over the world.
Now, I have read somewhere that most of the songs that have ever been recorded in the whole world, the majority of them about love. Did you find that most of your songs were about love?
Yeah, that's a question that we did talk about, and I had a friend who I work with in the dental field, and I had given him a CD a while back, or maybe a year ago, and I had talked to him on the phone. And he's like, "Wow, I still listen to your CD." He goes, "I really like that CD," and it was Velvet, and he goes, "The only thing is, it seems like all the songs are about love."
Was that a problem for him?
And he goes, I kind of like, I would like to hear something like maybe political or something. And I'm like, well, that's what I write about. I try to.
That's very lovely.
I try to fit.
And that's a tribute to his lovely wife, I'm sure.
Of course.
Okay, so you're going to play 2 songs for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll be good enough to play the first one, what's the first one you're going to play?
The first one is called "Tangled in My Heart."
Okay.
It's available on This Is Surreal.
Okay.
Take a minute to look me over. You could say what you want. I get the feeling you're trying to steal my heart. So don't deny all the feelings. It might be something you need. There's a fantasy coming over me. There's a sweet sensation where you are. Everything got tangled in my heart. I tried to send you a signal and stop the fire. I showed you the feeling I felt inside. Got caught in the middle and took it way too far. And everything got tangled in my heart. Buried in a religion, but isn't that just a lie? Some believers can only fantasize. So maybe it's just a feeling, but you got something I need, and that's the way you get me to believe. There's a new religion where you are. And everything got tangled in my heart. I tried to send you a signal and stop the fire. I showed you the feeling I felt inside. Got caught in the middle and took it way too far. And everything got tangled in my heart. Emerald dreams, swirling colors. It's a summer of love. I'm a dreamer, but I can feel your touch. Crystal rain, a crimson sunset, a psychedelic bazaar. There's the strangest feeling in my heart. Sensation where you are. And everything got tangled in my heart. I tried to send you a signal and stop the fire. I showed you the feeling I felt inside. Got caught in the middle and took it way too far. Everything got tangled in my heart.
Thank you,
That was
Isabel.
very nice. I was so excited about having you here, I forgot to give the rest of my good news.
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
to give a little more good news.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I read about was about a young man who was a senior in high school, and he missed his graduation because he was in a terrible car crash,
Oh.
and he was in a coma. And so the school did a second graduation
Oh, really?
just for him,
Wow.
and all of the seniors again went through and got their caps and gowns
Oh, wow.
again and got their diplomas again,
Wow.
and he was deeply moved by that. I
Wow.
thought that was really
That's a
lovely.
nice story.
Yeah, and the other thing was that California's last nuclear power plant is going to close, and it's going to be replaced by good energy.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was really quite lovely. So anyhow, I got carried away with you, of course.
Yes.
I had to give the rest of my good news. So tell me, Ron, what inspires you? How do you start to write a song? Do the words come first? Do the tunes come first?
Okay.
I've always wondered about that.
I've always wondered about it myself, and it's almost like hard to explain. I mean, you can actually teach the structure of songwriting, like intro, verse, chorus, bridge, the structure of a song and everything, and you can teach instrumentation, but you can't actually teach how to link words with a melody and get ideas for it. They almost come like spiritually. It's almost ethereal. How I mean, personally, how I write a song is I never know how I write a song.
It just comes
it
to
just
you?
comes to me. It could
Like-
come in the middle of the night. It could come an idea. A piece of a song might come to me while I'm in the shower or just driving home from work or something. Anyway, but I've often watched other and listened to other songwriters talk about how they write songs, and they kind of say the same thing. It's kind of like a spiritual, ethereal thing that they can't really explain. Like Paul McCartney once said that he didn't think he wrote Yesterday. He thought somebody else wrote it
Really?
when he came up with the melody and he
Well, it's a bit like I've always written.
Mhm.
And I decided one day that maybe what I should really do is take a course in creative writing. So I registered at the new school. I learned absolutely nothing.
Right.
It's not that I wasn't open-minded to it.
Right, because you're a very
But-
open-minded person.
But the whole point is I feel that creativity, my daughter has an expression. She's an artist. And she has an expression, and she says, whenever the muse is in town, be available.
Uh-huh.
In other words, when it's
Right,
coming
right.
to you, just be there to catch it.
Exactly. Yeah, John Mellencamp was interviewed. He's a huge songwriter. He has many hits. I'm sure the audience would know of him. Yeah, he's a rock guy, but he's written songs for other people also. But he was interviewed recently on one of the night talk shows, and they asked him how do you come up with these ideas for these songs and write them? And he said, oh no. He said, they come from out. They go right through me. He said, I'm only the vehicle.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Well, I've also heard it expressed a little bit differently. Native American storytellers make the statement that the story already exists and it comes through them. So it's similar to what you're saying.
Yeah,
Which
interesting.
is really interesting.
Yeah.
I think I might have told you at one time, the first time I ever wrote a poem, I had been in a very sound sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during the Second World War. And I kept thinking, how can there be a God if all these poor people are being slaughtered,
Right.
men, women, children, there's
right.
such horror. Why would a God permit that?
Yeah.
And the poem came to me in the middle of the night. I got up, I wrote it down, and the next morning it was there by the bed, and I really did not remember having written it, but it gave me an answer to that question.
Yeah.
So I do understand what you're saying. And
Yeah.
it's really fascinating. I don't think anybody can really explain the
Exactly.
creative process.
Exactly.
Especially when they're
it's
going.
probably the same with an artist that does painting and stuff. Like while he's painting, he's in a different
another
world.
zone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Ron, would you be good enough what else are you going to play for us today?
This is on a song that's on Velvet, and I wrote this.
What's the name of it?
It's called "Who Loves You Now."
Who Loves You Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a little more mystical than the power pop stuff that I write, and it goes like this.
You can never be too far from my heart. You can never forget love once it starts. Every night I'm waiting to take you away. Every time someone mentions your name, will you ever decide just what you want? Will you ever feel closer anymore? Every line, every word that you say, every kiss, every breath that you take. Who loves you, you should know by now. Who loves you, I could show you how. Who loves you now, who loves you now. Will you ever be closer to my heart? Will you ever believe in what I want? Every touch, everything that you say, every kiss just blows my feelings away. Who loves you, you should know by now. Who loves you, I could show you how. Who loves you now, who loves you now.
Very lovely. Thank you so much.
Sure.
That was wonderful. Well, Ron, I really have enjoyed this so tremendously. It's been
Thank you.
a fun session. I've never had a musician on before. And I'm sure that our audience loves having some real fun entertainment. And I thank you so much.
Sure.
Now, are you working on anything currently?
I'm always trying to write songs.
Are you really?
Yeah. I play out in clubs in the area with one of my partners,
I see.
and we have a band that a club band.
And where is your next gig?
Our next one is August in Wayne, New Jersey.
Wayne.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the venue?
The Grasshopper.
The Grasshopper.
Believe it or not, yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty good name. It sounds like a very
It's
acrobatic group.
it's a Irish pub,
Irish pub.
which is always fun.
Well, yeah, because usually they really get
They like
into
to
the
drink,
spirit.
yes,
and
they-
they get into the spirit of things. So do you have any Irish music that you're presenting?
No, just
Yeah.
my music and cover stuff that we do. Yeah.
You're not doing Molly Malone?
No,
or
no.
any of that?
Unless they at the end of the night they start making requests.
Well, would you know any of that music?
We can work
We
it.
can pick
My
it up.
partner is very good. He's
Uh-huh.
he's a good keyboard player, and he's really been playing a long time, like me, and so.
Oh, that's fun.
So we have a
That's
good
fun.
band. We have
The
a two-piece
Grasshopper.
duo. Yeah.
The Grasshopper. So how long have you guys been working together?
Me and him. He actually is kind of like a studio wizard, and he actually produced my albums for me, and actually mixed everything down for me.
I see.
I recorded all the stuff in my home studio, and then he took it to his studio and mastered it, and then he that was about 2010 that we started working together. So we've been together like 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I hope my audience, I'm sure they've enjoyed this show. And I thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you, Isabel. It's always a pleasure
It's
talking
fun.
to you.
It's great fun. Thank you. And thank you so much for listening to Lighten Up with Isabel, your good news show. We will continue to try to bring you only the best and happiest news that we can find, which is not always easy in today's world.
Until next time, remember to live a more joyous life. Lighten up.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.